Now, this is an interesting article indeed. Shall we read it? The FBI's fake encrypted HoneyPot phones are showing up online. About a month ago, it was revealed that an encrypted phone company was actually a front for a gargantuan FBI operation called Trojan Shield. The company, which was really a law enforcement honeypot, sold a product called Anom, an encrypted chat application installed on specific hardened phones that the Bureau was secretly distributing to track and monitor organized crime groups. Criminals thought they were getting a secure, impenetrable communication platform, but in reality, their networks were owned by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. The devices having been designed by the Bureau in collaboration with a high-level criminal informant who had previously sold such hardened encrypted devices to underworld networks. Now it's being reported by Motherboard that those phones are weirdly being sold on the secondary market, popping up on Craigslists like forums and online retailers. Online forums devoted to Android merchandise have been abuzz with talk about how these phones, stripped of their original powers, now seem to be circulating as cheap used products sold to unsuspecting buyers who just want an affordable device. I bought this phone online for a ridiculously low price. Now I understand why, one secondhand buyer told Motherboard. Probably this phone was used by some drug dealer, they added. I love how they added that smiley face in there. Motherboard actually managed to get a hold of one of the phones, procuring it from one of the people who had bought it secondhand. Thus, the outlet has revealed some really interesting details about the device, and suffice it to say, it's pretty weird. Upon first glance, the phone seems normal. A user puts a PIN to log in, and it is then taken to what looks like a fairly normal home screen. But the device comes equipped with what are essentially decoy apps, stuff like Netflix, Instagram, Snapchat, and Tinder, that if you click on them don't actually work. Instead, to get the functioning interface, a user has to reset the phone and type in a different PIN. Doing this resets the home screen, leaving only a clock and calculator app and the device's settings. If the calculator app is clicked on, it delivers a new login ID screen, prompting the user to enter an Anom ID and a password. From there, the phone's real purpose, to act as an encrypted clandestine communication channel, is ostensibly opened. This is a phone that used with that FBI Anon application to read the messages with the users, another platform user helpfully wrote in a poorly worded PSA. For the most part, the phones don't seem to work anymore, and many of them have largely been stripped of their creepy features. It's also unclear who's selling these devices, though one could assume they're being peddled by former users trying to evade the heat, or at least just to get some of their money back. It also apparently offers a shortcut for what appears to be a wipe feature on the phone, with an icon showing a piece of paper going through a shredder. Motherboard reports in reference to an apparent data wiping feature. So yeah, fairly cloak and dagger stuff. Anyway, if you see a cheap, weird phone for sale on some obscure website forum that matches this description, probably best to steer clear. You're either being sold a useless former honeypot device or maybe stumbling into the next federal sting operation, both of which sound like bad times all around. Australia did something similar. They were using it in what was called Operation Ironside. But they got busted out by a blogger who said that the phones were compromised. So, interesting. Unfortunately, we're always going to have criminals. Unfortunately, there's always going to be people looking for the next sneaky come up. That's why it's so important that you pay attention to the things you do. Pay attention to the words you say. Pay attention to the actions you take, because there's always consequences. And you need to make sure that your actions are bringing about fruitful and helpful things. Unfortunately, we live in a world full of crime. There's always going to be con men and con women. There's always going to be people out there looking for the next quick come up. It's very unfortunate, but very real. This is why it's so important to pay attention to your environment, the people you hang around with, who you align yourself with. Because you don't want to end up behind bars with these people. So don't do it. It seems people would rather do the crime and try to evade the time, but then they forget that there are others out there monitoring the line.